Hey everyone, this is Scott from Forgot to Grow Up. Welcome to our Dracula Season 1, Episode 2 Thoughts video. Just finished watching the second episode of the new Netflix series Dracula, and I'm just going to be sharing my general thoughts along with a lot of spoiler talks about this episode. This episode we follow Dracula as he makes his way via ship to England, and this is straight from the original book. Obviously, him making his way, a lot of similarities to the original book, or this part of the original book, but expanding on it a whole lot more. I believe in the original book it was just maybe like a chapter or two, or is this expands a lot on it more. We learn a little bit more about the actual passengers who he's eating, and a little bit more about that. So I really enjoyed this episode because, like I said, it expanded on this thing that I specifically remember from the original book, Dracula, and so I really liked that we got a little bit more, that they dove into this part a little bit more and kind of used it as a little bit of a way to take the story in a different direction for this new series. So I really enjoyed overall how this whole episode went, with us spending the time on the boat and then where we left off at the end of it because he was on the boat. Like I said, some of the ties, besides him just being on the boat, he still has to sleep on some earth from his home, a bed of earth from his home country of Transylvania, which was mentioned this one. So he is from Transylvania. I wasn't sure if they were trying to kind of retcon that or not, but yes, he's from Transylvania. And so I really like that they included that, and then we're kind of getting this little bit of a mystery, even though we know who the bad guy is, but this mystery is still of like, wait, is it him in number 9? And then a little bit of a twist of it ended up being Van Helsing, who was the mystery passenger, and that this whole episode, when we thought the two of them were sitting in some kind of room, which I did spend the first like half this episode being like, wait, where did this come from? What is this in the timeline? And then we eventually find out that Dracula has a vampire's kiss, which is actually an opioid, which is how he's able to mess with people's dreams or get into their dreams. That was, I guess, some of his psychic abilities or telekinesis abilities. He's able to manipulate her dreams or communicate with her via that, or maybe she was just in a haze because of the opioid, and that's what they're talking about. She imagined she was in a different room than she actually was. I just still really like that kind of a twist. I really, really love the dynamic between the nun Van Helsing and Agatha Van Helsing and Count Dracula. I just really like the way just their dynamic, the way they're very, like, she's very headstrong and witty and sarcastic with him, and he just finds that delightful. And I find it delightful that they're just their dynamic between them. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then it's pretty basic for a lot of the stuff, him just taking out different members of the crew. I do like that we also learned a little bit more about this version of the lore. He consumes skills and things via consuming blood. We see at the beginning of this episode that he takes out one of the deckhands, just to learn or brush up on his German, which I think is a really cool little bit to add to the lore, a little bit more, adds a little interest into it, gives him his own little thing where he can be like, yeah, I'm scared of the cross because I've, fed on so many peasants who have been abused by the da-da-da-da-da-da, and Van Helsing's just like, yeah, that's some BS that you're telling yourself there. And she's like, yeah, I would never lie. You're not lying to me, you're lying to yourself. And I was like, because it's a little bit true. So I'm curious to see if we do learn a little bit more in the future about why exactly he is scared of crosses, because it seems like he maybe doesn't even know himself. He just has some kind of justification he's come up with. But yes, so yeah, we spend the whole episode just, him killing different people, learning a little bit more about that. But then we end in a way that, as soon as I saw him get in his box, I knew it was coming. But that being said, I wasn't 100% ready for it throughout this episode. I wasn't sure if we were going to make this, but spoiler alert if you haven't watched this full episode yet. But get a time jump at the end of this episode, which I was kind of hoping they were going to do in the series, seeing at some point, and I thought I read that more of the series was actually going to take place in the modern era or throughout time in general. But yes, we end this episode off with him having to crawl into one of his boxes of dirt as the ship's getting blown up by the nun, by Van Helsing, or Agatha Van Helsing, and so then he crawls into his box to protect himself, and then we see, I guess he wakes up sometime later, and he crawls onto a beach and we see a helicopter, and then we see Agatha, or someone who looks like her, at least Van Helsing, greet him there and be like, what took you so long? And so I'm really excited to get to the next episode and see where they're going to take the story now, because this is the part that definitely diverges from the books. Yes, he did go to London in the original books, but it was definitely, it took place in a different time than we are now in our modern era, where we might have a little bit more information, especially if Van Helsing's have been around or at all. But so I'm curious to get to the next episode and check out how this season's going to end off and where we're going to leave. Is it going to be a conclusion to the whole story, or is this going to be like a setting up for another season or not? That I'm very curious about. But yes, that's all my thoughts on the second episode of Dracula. Be sure to let me know in the comments below what you thought about this episode. Thanks again for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and have a good one.